The Dell XPS 13, 2024, is the newest entry in what is generally a pretty good series of laptops, usually scoring at least a 4 out of 5 star rating when we review them, though 2022's Dell XPS 13 Plus received a lower score thanks to build quality issues. But how does the latest one stack up, equipped with the powerful Qualcomm Snapdragon X Elite CPU? Quite well actually, as it's now one of the best Windows laptops and best laptops of the year, coupling its already stellar design and portability with much improved battery life and performance. In both benchmark scores and actual day-to-day use, the new Dell XPS 13 is comparable to other recent Snapdragon-powered laptops like the Microsoft Surface Laptop 7 and Asus VivoBook S15, showing a strong consistency in terms of what the processor offers. The display choices range from 1080p to 3K OLED depending on the configuration, though even the lowest resolution still looks impressive thanks to its 500 nits of brightness. In terms of configuration, it starts at 16GB of RAM and goes as high as 64GB, while the storage ranges from 512GB to 2TB. Its starting price is also quite reasonable considering the specs it offers. The only real downside to the Snapdragon X Elite CPU is the existing compatibility issues with Windows 11 apps designed for Intel and AMD systems. These issues aren't apparent when it comes to productivity work, except the odd connectivity issue with specific Bluetooth accessory features, but can become noticeable when gaming. While Prism emulation, which allows non-compatible apps to run on laptops like the new XPS 13 with the Snapdragon X Elite chip, is more than good enough for most games, and more apps are now being released that can run natively on ARM. There are still some roadblocks to total compatibility for Windows on ARM devices, but that should hopefully change soon. How much does it cost? Starting price is $1,299/£2,098 When is it available? Available now. Where can you get it? Available in the US, UK, and Australia. The starting price for the Dell XPS 13, 2024, is $1,299/£2,098.80, netting you a Qualcomm Snapdragon X Elite processor with 16GB RAM and 512GB SSD storage in the US, UK, and Australia. Other configurations go up to 64GB per 2TB in specs, which will cost £2,499.99/£1,823.99 It matches its starting price with the Asus VivoBook S15, but it's far pricier than the Microsoft Surface Laptop 7 and M3 MacBook Air 13-inch. Though it comes with overall much better specs including a superior processor. So if you're looking for more of an ultrabook, then this is the choice for you. The Dell XPS 13, 2024 starts with a Qualcomm Snapdragon X Elite processor with 16GB RAM and 512GB SSD storage with an FHD+ 1920 by 1200 touch display. Our own review model is similar to the starting configuration. The highest configuration goes up to 64GB RAM and 2TB in storage with a 3K OLED, 2880 by 1800, touch display. There is also the Intel Core Ultra 7 155H model still on sale, which is also available in the UK and Australia. The starting pricing is the same as the Snapdragon X Elite version, which is rather odd considering that the CPU is weaker and the laptop comes with only 8GB of RAM. The Dell XPS 13, 2024's design is as sleek and svelte as you'd come to expect from the XPS line, starting at a mere 2.59 pounds and measuring only 14.8 millimeters thin. Thankfully, this version also has a high build quality made from machined, CNC, aluminum, ensuring that it can withstand punishment and the daily wear and tear of commutes. It's available in platinum or graphite with a lovely finish that's surprisingly fingerprint resistant. The XPS 13 has 3 different display types to choose from, including a 3K Plus OLED touch display option, which is beyond stunning for a 13.4-inch screen. The bezels are ultra-thin, and yet still able to support a 1080p FHD webcam, which offers generally good picture quality for video calls. Sound quality is incredible, largely due to the 360-degree spatial audio with quad speakers and Dolby Atmos. You can clearly hear each instrument, separate from each other in any vocals, while heavy bass loses very little in terms of integrity even at higher volumes. The new Dell XPS 13 is based on the divisive Dell XPS 13 Plus in terms of its keyboard, with an edge-to-edge design achieved by removing the lattice and a touchpad and wrist rest made entirely from Gorilla Glass with no visible boundaries. The touch-based toolbar also makes its return, which, while visually impressive, is just as inaccessible as it's always been. Both the touchpad and toolbar use haptic feedback in order to give the feeling of pressing a button. But while it can generally work for the former, the latter makes it impossible to know if you hit the right button unless you can see it. Port selection is still absolutely abysmal as it only has 2 USB Type-C ports, with no combo jack to speak of, RIP if you do audio editing because only Bluetooth works here. It does come with an adapter for the Type-A port, but Dell could have easily fit at least one of those and a jack on the actual laptop.